In the last video, we took a look at packet capture, our very first packet capture. And in this video, we're going to continue along examining the same packet capture. And of course, we're using Wireshark to do that. By the way, Wireshark is the default tool of every network engineer. Every network engineer will have a copy of Wireshark because it is so useful in examining your network and to make sure everything is performing correctly. And if there's any problems or speed improvements that need to be made, this is the default tool. So again, we started looking at this packet capture in the last video. And we talked about the three-way handshake, the very important TCP three-way handshake. And that occurs in these first three packets. In this video, we're going to start to talk about HTTP, which of course uses TCP. Now, there are many other protocols that use TCP. One of those would be FTP. You're probably very familiar with that. Email protocols also use TCP. So we'll talk about that in future videos, but just keep in mind, it's not just HTTP that uses TCP. Okay, so again, we got our three-way handshake, and by the fourth packet, the HTTP packet is sent from the web browser, and that would be this machine right here, this client right here, to the web server, which is right here. And you can see it in this diagram. Now, you might be asking, well, where are the rest of the HTTP packets? I only see one here. And the reason for this is something called the HTTP persistent connection. So once you have communications in place, once they're established, and you get your first HTTP packet between two hosts, something else is established called the HTTP persistent connection. And it's also called HTTP keep alive. And basically, the idea here is you're just going to use a single TCP connection to send and receive multiple HTTP requests. That's why we don't have to see a bunch of other HTTP packets here. All of the data that is transferred back and forth is done right inside this single connection. And what does HTTP use? Well, it uses a series of GET and POST. And you can see that in this diagram right here. So somebody opened a web browser, and then HTTP, of course, is the protocol. And then depending on what is being done, either a GET or a POST will be dispatched to the server. Now, usually a GET is for a simple web page. And that's actually what we're going to be looking at in this example. You can see the GET right here. A POST is usually for something more complex. So you're filling out some data in a form, and you will upload that data to the server. Then probably the POST method will be invoked. But again, these are the two most commonly used methods for HTTP. Now, how do we see this data stream in Wireshark? Well, it's really simple. Let's just go ahead and right-click right here. And then you go to follow, and then you go to HTTP stream. And this will allow us to see the data stream of all the data that was sent back and forth between the client machine and the web server. So let's go ahead and open this up, and we'll expand this out. So here we go. This is the actual data that's going back and forth. And as I said, this is a consistent data stream. Now, usually what Wireshark does is it identifies the GET in red, and you can see that right here. So you can see the GET, you can see the host it's connecting to, and you can even see here, see where the connection says keep alive? That's actually the persistent data connection. So this is the first method that is invoked. So all of this in red here would represent this GET. Now, the blue is the data that is sent back. And actually, I should have another arrow here coming back to the client. So everything that's in blue here is what comes back from the web server. So you can see that right here. This is all the data that was sent back. And what is it? Well, it's an HTML document, right? And this is the basis of how HTTP works, right? We're usually getting an HTML document. You can see that. This is the HTML document that this website coded up. You can see it right here. All of this was sent back to the client. And so I think you get an idea now how HTTP works at the packet and data stream level. And let's actually scroll all the way to the bottom here. And here you can see is the final closing HTML element. And so if you took my series on HTML, and I hope you did, you will remember that we were coding up some of these web pages. Well, here we're seeing it on the network actually being sent from a web server down to a client. And again, everything is in blue. Now, I will point out one thing. This was just a very simple packet capture. But in reality, you would probably see a lot of different gets and responses. So let's say they clicked on a link inside this web page. You would see another get occur right here. And again, that would be in red. And the server response would be in blue, whatever was sent back, probably another web page. So that is how HTTP HTTP works at the very low level. And that's one of the reasons I'm actually starting out early with Wireshark, because I want you to get used to reading these packet captures. We're at the very low level here, but it's better, I think, to start out learning at the low level rather than the high level. And we'll talk about the high level in several videos, but think about this. When we get to those diagrams, this will all make a lot more sense. Now, one thing we're going to start talking about in the next video are problems that may occur. And we're actually going to first talk about this HTTP status code. That's what we're going to talk about in the next video, is some problems that can occur with packet transfer. Okay, I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you.